Hi, Bahjat. Welcome to the show.
Hello,
It is,
thank you so much for having me.
it is really interesting to see young talents like you, and especially like represent a very beautiful country like Libya. So tell us, Bahjat, about yourself. Can you introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Bahjat. I was born and raised in Libya, and I've always been so interested in music. When I was younger, my mom always used to play songs by Michael Jackson and the Beatles and Madonna, and then of course Amr Diab and all these iconic artists. So I grew up around music, and then I was interested in learning the piano and then the guitar, and then one thing led to another, and here I am making music still.
Interesting. So let's go back to the childhood. I think like you've been kind of like so much in touch with traveling with your family, like going to Tunisia, and then also like in 2011, like you moved to Malta. So tell us like what travel like inspire you in terms like your music career.
Mm. I mean, to be honest, like traveling for me is you get to like show your brain new references and new things to be inspired by. So when I was younger, we used to travel a lot, as I mentioned, to Tunisia. We used to go to Switzerland, and everywhere I went, it was so interesting to me what songs were representing that period of time in that country, and how there's always different songs, but then there's always the songs that we all share in our memories. And it inspired me so much to want to push boundaries and cross cultures, because at the end of the day you notice that humans, we are all humans at the end of the day, and we like the same things, and we get moved by the same things. So what I learned by traveling was that their music can connect all of us even though we've never been in each other's countries, which was, I mean, so interesting to me to learn.
This is very interesting. And also, like, I find out that you also, like, when you was a kid, that you was like to play with the keyboard, and also, like, you are passionate about art. So, how you kind of like getting like, your first keyboard, and what is kind of art you are passionate, like drawing, maybe? Like, tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I loved watching Disney. Disney has always like such good music, and um, it's so catchy, and the cartoons look so cool. So I used to draw all the characters from Disney. I used to be obsessed with like the Little Mermaid, and then whenever I had like a pen and a paper, I was always drawing and composing characters, and I thought I wanted to be like, I wanted to create cartoons for a living. And then I started, playing music and the keyboard a little bit. I always had a small keyboard in my room, and my mom always encouraged me whenever I was interested in like painting. She took me to painting lessons. If I was interested in the keyboard, she would get me like a keyboard teacher, go to an academy, and so she always supported all my artistic interests. But I mean, as a child, I've wanted to be like probably like 25 times from like, 25 different things, like painter, animator, fashion designer, architect. I mean, I've always had so many, different interests, but they've always been somewhat arts related.
This is really interesting to know about. And as well, like you kind of like moving to Malta at 2011 at young age, and I feel like Malta is more like closing environment like Libya in terms of like the food, in terms of the music, yeah, and I feel like there is something you learn about it there because they have good talent as well, and it's like growing scene. So tell us about your experience in terms of Malta.
Yeah, I mean, when I moved to Malta, it was an age that was very delicate. I was 15 years old. And when I moved to Malta, my first teenage years in Libya, I was very, very like shy. So I always had like internet friends, and I used to Skype with people. I didn't like to go out in real life. So when went to Malta, and it was during, a pretty rough time, I had to change so much in my life, which changed so much of how I write my music, because now I started going out, I started seeing people, I started, working, studying with different kinds of people. And Malta is like such a small place, which makes it's alive almost all the time. There's always people in the street, you know everyone. When you go out, there's always someone that there's so much life. And in the sense, that's why it reminds me of like Libya and all the Arabic countries, because there's always life in the street. You always hear shit, people like shouting in the background. The mother is taking her children to school. Like someone is running to catch the bus. It's so much life.
Hmm.
So I learned so much more about myself, and also about
Yeah.
people, and how different environments inspire different types of music. And when I was in Malta, I was so inspired by the way that everything felt alive and everything was like up tempo. Um, so yeah, I mean, I learned so much there about myself and about life and how to build yourself as a person to be able to cope with the changes happening in one's life.
That's very interesting as well. And I think I want to highlight another very important like milestone in your story, which is you was actually starting doing cover with your brother, and then you was doing cover for Adele, and also like you do other like weekend songs. So I think like you're deleting this video. So tell us like
Oh my
that kind of
God. You know about these videos?
yeah, of course.
How did you even find them?
And I think like you like also like can't see my face the weekend.
Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I started uploading YouTube covers when I was about 15 years old. So I was still in Libya back then. And in Libya, the internet was not the best. So when I wanted to upload a video, I would stay from like 1 at night, like 1 a.m. until 7 in the morning for one video to be uploaded. So it was like, I have so many memories of me trying to upload videos.
Yeah.
After I moved to Malta and I started to learn more about myself, I wanted to explore more of my songwriting. And from me uploading YouTube covers, I learned the importance of being an entrepreneur because I put up my first video as a 15-year-old and I was like, okay, now I'm gonna go viral. And then I didn't go viral, you know?
Yeah.
I understood that to be able to build a career in music, you need to be an entrepreneur and you need to reach out to people for them to find you. So I taught myself so much about the music industry and I reached out to thousands of people um, to build a network and send so many emails. And, I was in touch with thousands of people I'd never met from countries I've never been to. So then when I kind of reached an age where I was like, okay, now I want to focus on my own, original music, I decided to leave the whole YouTube cover thing behind.
That's really true. I think you're right about music. It's not just only about just doing music. It's more into like you need to think as an entrepreneur, as a startup, and you need to build like a team around you who share your vision and believe in you, so that can make difference. And I think one of the first projects as an entrepreneur, which is like Stand Tall, which is your
Yeah.
first music video, and it was in Malta with a couple of creative people. So how you felt like if you play the video again and you remember that moment of like your first music video, and it was kind of like a genius moment. So tell us the story about your first music video.
I mean, that was so much fun. I wrote so many songs, and then when I came to want to release one, I wanted my first original song to be something that meant a lot to me. And Stand Tall is a song that I wrote when we moved to Malta, as I mentioned, and then I lost a lot of my security that I've had. Economy crashed, and we kind of had nothing except for each other. I had my mom, I had my siblings. So when I wrote Stand Tall, it was at a time where I realized, but we are okay as long as we have each other. So that song is so special to me. And the fact that I released it as my first song, it means so much. And I recorded it. I remember, in a studio for the first time, and I was like in the microphone, and I was scared, and I was telling, but how do I do that? And how do I do that? And it was such a fun experience to also do the music video. And I was like, I didn't know how to act in front of the camera, and like they was being directed. Um, and then when in the music video, I even invited people from a student organization called ISEC to send their music video, like them dancing to the song, because for
Yeah.
me that was kind of like I wanted the song to have an even bigger message with an organization that was global to show the true meaning of unity when we're all from different places coming through music, which kind of like
Yeah.
goes back to what I told you in the beginning that traveling taught me that music can unite all humans, regardless of what language, what country, what culture. So it was so fun to be able to do that with my first song, and it means still a lot to me.
That's cool. And also, like, you have very good, like, role model or like inspiring artists that you always like passionate about their own careers, which is like Coldplay and Taylor Swift. And also that you always like focusing not only about musically, you are talking about how the artist is communicating to the fans, the stage performance, and the growth in terms of musically and also professionally. So I think you have deeper thoughts when you said like this kind of art inspire you beyond music. So tell me more what you mean by the artist communication and then the artist itself. Why, for example, like Coldplay and Taylor Swift, for example?
Um, when I was still a teenager, when I was reserved and I didn't want to share how I felt in my music, or no, how to share like feelings in real life to my friends, I found artists like Taylor Swift so relatable because she said the words for me. And for me, that taught me an important lesson about being an artist, which is art is about inviting people in and making a connection with them through singing about things that we all go through, but maybe not all of us have the courage to share it yet. So when you listen to a song that you relate to, um, you feel like you released it from your system and from your body, even though it wasn't you who wrote it or sang it. So that's when I felt that connection with someone that I'd never met just because I felt their lyrics or their music. I understood that art was about the people that you invite to consume it. So that was such an important lesson for me to learn as an artist, which is, um, art is nothing without people who are looking at it, without people who are listening to it, without people who are appreciating it. So that's kind of like the lesson I learned early on.
That's really very good to know about it because the next question is just like also like when you starting doing your music because it's kind of like let's call it like it's this new genre. It's different between somebody like doing music that there is like 1,000 reference in that vertical and someone creating a new genre because you find yourself in that situation. Because sometimes we find ourselves in a situation that we need to adapt to that situation and then doesn't find excuses why not creating something new from scratch. Because you move to Malta and then you find yourself with the new language of Maltese and then you like English music at the same time you're trying to connect your roots. So it's a kind of like you find yourself in an emotional storm and then you come up with something really kind of like unique to your style and there is no match in this vertical in the Arab world, which is like the Arab pop. So tell us how you find this vertical.
That's so interesting that you mention it like that because I was just talking to my manager now before the interview and I was asking her and I was like, because me and her, we always say that we use the term A-pop, which is like, how there is like K-pop and there is like Latin pop. So we use like A-pop. And for me, A-pop is Arabic pop music that is globally accessible. And there's like playlists on Spotify that's like called Arab X, which is for me the same thing, which I call A-pop. So it's so interesting that you say it like that because that's exactly what happened. I was like doing songs in English and then I started writing in Arabic. And then when I combined both, for me, that was when it felt more me than anything else. Because since I have been living, in different places, I've been traveling, I speak like that. I speak in Arabic and then I throw in an English word and then I throw in a Maltese word and I throw in a Swedish word. And that for me is a new generation that we were raised globally by the internet, kind of. We were exposed to each other's cultures and languages without having to go and travel and visit. So for me, A-pop is exactly that. That's the Arabic perspective on the global globality that's been happening, and I want to take it to that mainstream global level, and I'm so excited about the future of it because I think that there's so much potential.
Yeah, I think this is like our responsibility as journalists, which is like we not usually cover in the mainstream. We are actually broken the story of upcoming artists because we don't see the music by what is in the traditional chart, because we don't add any value in terms of that. But we are kind of like telling the story of promising artists because this is the crucial time that you need help. Because later on, when you're already huge and everything, you don't need any more exposure because You need to tell your story at this stage. And for me, I'm really passionate about artists who really kind of like creating new things with this new challenge. Because if you think from the technical perspective, you mentioned about the A-pop and K-pop, Korea itself is a very small island. So it's not maybe the K-pop are mainstream in Korea itself because the music was made from the start to be for export only. So it's not local music because they realized a long time ago that music itself is a commodity. It can be a product, it can be export, it can be inspired, you know. So they created kind of industry. And I feel like now, because of the new player in the space like Spotify and other streaming platform, you know, which is creating kind of democratizing music and creating data that help the artist to kind of reach to new market, you know, without need of physical store to have your CD. Because back in time, you need a label to put a
Yeah.
physical CD, which is very challenging. So I feel like this is kind of like very important role right now in the music, which is like helping you to reach a new market. And I feel also you take one more step in 2017, which is you went to Pop Music Academy in Sweden. So tell us about like why you decided to make that step.
Yeah, I mean, like I agree with everything that you're saying now, and I mean, on behalf of artists in the Middle East, I would like to thank you for showing interest and working towards pushing and introducing that kind of genre and new message to the world. It's much uh, needed and it's much appreciated. So thank you for that. And with regards to the like me moving to Sweden, I've always been like obsessed with Swedish pop productions. I love Max Martin, I love ABBA, I love Dennis Pop and shit, like the whole Sharon movement, the Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, and
Yeah.
then went on to Katy Perry and Taylor Swift and The Weeknd, and I was like, this man has created all the songs that I sang when I was young, when I was a teenager, when I was an adult. It's like, how does someone do that? So I became obsessed with the idea of going to Sweden, and I started adding like 500 people from Sweden on my Facebook, like producers, songwriters, managers, and labels. And then I started reaching out and introducing myself. And then I saw an article about Max Martin visiting an academy in Sweden. And then I Googled that academy and I saw that they had like only three places for international students. So then the deadline had passed and I sent them a message. I'm like, please, can you please accept my application? I would really, really like to be considered, even though the deadline passed. And then they were like, yeah, we'll like, it's fine. You can send us your application. And then I sent it and I got in. And that was like, I was like, this is amazing for me to go and start networking because so many music labels like Sony Sweden, Warner Sweden, Universal Sweden were all coming and listening to our music and giving us feedback. And I was able to kind of build a network. And then from there, I went to Stockholm. And I met Max Martin in the school. Like I met the man who made all the songs like that were my favorite throughout all my life. So it was so fun, and such a weird accident how quick it happened and how I mean it's been a fun journey.
I think Bahjat, you need to put in different perspective because I don't believe like things happening by accident. I feel it's more onto kind of like manifesting things,
Yeah,
because in 2015 you was talking about your passions about Taylor Swift, and then it takes you 2 years, exactly 24 months, to meet the producer of Taylor Swift. So
yeah,
it's not like a coincidence. It's a more onto manifesting your mind, which direction you want to go. And the same time, the second thing you mentioned, which is very important, you are trying to reach out to people from the industry. So you are not just staying with the music bubble and then just you think that's enough. So you are teach yourself to trying to be more aware and communicating and trying to see things in the music business from different perspective because it's not someone come to you and said there is some activity here. You are always seeing the news and how you make that kind of passion, like in terms of like connecting with people because you said like in Libya you was a little bit shy and you feel like when you went to Malta starting kind of like having different energy. How important this and where you are today?
it's everything. It's knowing people and knowing the right people and reaching out to everyone. It's changed my life. I mean, it's literally changed my life. I would not be anywhere near where I am today if I had not reached out to all the people. And there's some people that I reached out to when I was like 15 that I'm meeting now for the first time in real life when I'm in Stockholm, when I'm traveling. And it's I think that that passion of mine started when I understood that I will not be able to do like to make it if I don't go myself and do it myself. Especially that I had a strong vision of my music and I did not want to let someone try to make it more commercial or try to make it more this or that. Or I had such a strong vision and I was like, whatever it takes to make that vision happen, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it until it happens. So I never had kind of like a plan B. It's always been like plan A, and then the roads. So road B, road C, so many different. I tried different doors that would lead me to the same destination. Because for me, the moment we give ourselves another option is the moment we accept that we are not capable of doing the thing that we truly want. So I'm still like that today. I still go meet people. I still knock on doors. When I came to Stockholm for the first time 3 years ago, I knocked on all the labels. I took like Libyan, baklava with me in a small pack, and I was like, "Hey, I'm Bahjat. I'm from Libya. This is a tradition we have. We take something sweet with us." And they would be like, "Who is this guy who's coming here from Malta, who is Libyan with Arabic sweets? Like what?" So it creates this kind of like story where people they're just curious, like why is he so persistent, and where does this confidence come from? So it really like be connecting with people is the number one thing, in the music industry, connecting with the industry, connecting with the fans, connecting with the other artists. When you break it down, you understand that connection is the essence of art. And that was like such
100%.
a great lesson that I learned by meeting so many different people.
This is 100%. I think it's really kind of like inspiring to know this much really personal details on you, because this is, I think, the purpose of the show. It's just like we're trying to kind of telling the story of the artist, because you feel like, I feel there is a responsibility that we need to play as journalists, because social media make it things look easy. So that's why we want to break down the story of the artist, so people doesn't think it's easy. There is a time, there is a hard work. So it's not like overnight. Maybe people discover you nowadays, but you've been working for the last 7 years. So it's not just like overnight success, right?
No, no. There's a my manager told me this quote from like a very big basketball player, and he's like the top at his game. And then they interviewed him, and he said that he still wakes up at 6 a.m. and he dribbles the ball and like shoots for like hours every morning. And then they asked him why he still does that if he's the best, and then he said, "But this is why I'm the best." And for me, that just like summarizes everything that I've been learning in the past few years of my life, which is every success in the world is built upon so many things that come to that point of like the breakthrough. So without putting in that work, you can't even have the overnight success, because that overnight success is built upon so many things that led it to that point. That's like for
Yeah.
me personally what I think. Uh, but obviously, so many people have different journeys, and sometimes someone else's, a label or a manager can help someone through their years of hard work to be able to become an overnight success. So it's always different from one case to another, but there's always that long period of hard work that leads anyone into that.
Yeah. I think it's really true, because the most important thing for artists is like to don't give up, because there is no quick result. It's always about like keep doing it. Especially like it was really challenge for you in terms of this A-pop music, which is like new genre, and it's kind of like you are one of the pioneers in that vertical, which is still now we are trying to kind of like exposure and promoting this scene. And I think also like in just like 2019, you have kind of met with very amazing Egyptian producer Hassan Shafai, and then you work an amazing project with him. I think there is always like kind of like um, interesting things always happen to you. It's like from Libya to Malta, Sweden, and then Sweden collaboration with artists in Egypt. So
Yeah.
it's a kind of like something always like disruptive. So how the story happened, and tell us about this project, because I really enjoy so much the song. There is a story. You can like travel in that moment when you play the music video, like you travel in a certain moment, and it's something that we don't see it in music nowadays, you know. So it's a more onto like uh, very touching song. So tell us about the story and how you collaborate with this producer. I would like to share the story with our audience.
Of course. I applied the same thing that I've been applying for years, which is I'm the kind of person that was always like sending out and reaching out to people. I don't think, and my mom used to always tell me this, it's like, even if you think it's impossible, you have nothing to lose by trying. And then I lived with this role of like I have nothing to lose. So then that's why I went out and knocked on all the labels. That's why I sent out all my demos to so many people. And the same thing applied here. I was just in Sweden. I was, just in the evening listening to a playlist, and then one of his songs came out, and then I remembered him. I was like, oh, but I really like his music. I like how he has this fusion of like Western and Eastern. It's so fresh. So then at 9 p.m., I think, I wrote him an email. I'm like, hey, my name is Bahjat. I'm an artist from Libya. I'm independent. I make music like this. And I sent a link, and, it'll be fun to do something together. And then I
Yeah.
sent it and I went to sleep. And, I do this hundreds of times, and I never expect a reply, because for me, it's like I just do it in case. And then I woke up, and when I woke up, I had a reply from him. And he was like, who are you? Where did you come from? How come I've never heard of you? Do you speak Arabic? Do you sing in Arabic? Do you write in Arabic? Let's schedule a Skype. So then we started talking on Skype, and we really clicked, especially musically, because I kind of like come with this different like way of songwriting the melodies in Arabic, and then he comes with a different way of producing. So we wrote like a bunch of ideas in such a short period of time, and then we wanted to launch Galb Queen as the first one, because as you say, which I'm so happy to hear that you feel, it's such a special song. The message of it is so special to me because of the way that I had to leave Libya. And I'm so proud of the song. And I mean, it's become the most streamed song in Libyan, in Angami, like in history, which is crazy to me to see that a song I wrote in my bedroom in Sweden has been able to touch that many people. So yeah, that's how that story happened.
I think this is really like interesting. Just to give you back another kind of like highlight about this project, because Hassan Shafi is very interesting a producer, and he always trying to kind of like fusion music with different things. Because I feel right now we are in very democratized space of music, and especially because there is no border anymore in the digital world. Like people listening to each other music. And this is why I feel like excited about this new generation of hip hop, or music in general, because what's happening before is like you need to have a lot of resources and stuff to make a project between two artists in different countries, traveling expenses and everything. But nowadays there is everything online, like a Skype call, sending your sample and stuff, and things can be really happen. And this is like I feel like things can be helped so much to helping connecting people, because right now the hip hop can be very good bridge, especially like for Arab artists who sing in English, because we can go even further. Because even Arabic music is really popular, but there is limit in terms of where to reach. But English music with Arab artists or Arab artist roots can go even further. And this is why I want to kind of like highlight about like I don't feel like at that point in 2019, like you kind of slow down. Always they are pushing hard, because in 2019 you have two of the most played tracks in Spotify in Arab song. But I feel like this is not what you are aiming. I think this is only the beginner. So what you are aiming for? Tell me more about you.
Hmm. I mean, my goal is to take A-pop and to take the story of and the narrative of being a young Arab dreamer and someone with a vision, and I want to put it up there on the mainstream stage and get the story heard the same way that people like Ed Sheeran's story is heard, the same way that Adele's story is heard, Taylor Swift, The Weeknd. My goal is to take my music to that level and be able to share to a global audience what it's like to be a person, a young Arab with a dream, and having gone through the circumstances and fought for what we achieved, and the struggles. And so yeah, the goal is to get there and to hopefully one day get like be a young Arab who has Grammys and be the first Libyan to achieve like something in the global music industry. I'm very ambitious as a person, and I'm always aiming to do more and to get better and better and better all the time. Um, so yeah, the goal is to go as further up as possible and share the story from there.
I think this is something really special about you, Bahjat, because you kind of like bringing the Libyan dialect language to the mainstream, and I think also you become more onto role model to a lot of Libyan youth. You know, it can be just like an artist as well, it can be influencer, it can be anything, because I think we are missing in North Africa as an artist, or like in the region here, artists can be a role model overseas, because locally it's like we have plenty of influencer or like artists in that vertical. But I think the artists who are representing the country overseas have become very important role to advocate about his country and representing his country. And even in overseas, you mentioned that you bringing that little bit baklawa that's to people, and it's more into creating curiosity about what is what is who's your country? Like, tell me more about your country. And I want to talk about the same thing in terms of music, because you highlight about like Spotify playlist Arab X. They are putting all artists who have Arabic roots in one playlist. You know, I want to ask you, like, nowadays, what kind of artists you listen? You know, who really having like Arabic roots or something. Like, tell me more beyond Taylor Swift and the Weeknd. Tell me more whose artists inspire you from the Arab world or like overseas.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, what you're saying is it's so true. And it's such an important time nowadays for this whole like A-pop genre, and to be, a role model to people and to show young kids who have a passion about being an artist or a musician. I want to be able to show them that it's possible for as long as you want it and as long as you work for it. And for me, that responsibility I take with such like care, and I want to be able to inspire younger people to achieving their dreams. And it's like to when you're young and you see someone that you want to be like, it's so much it becomes so much more empowering when that person has lived your story. Because our parents, they go like, yeah, but like, he lives in that country, he has opportunities, he's like this and
Yeah,
that. But for me, I want the young Arab kids to be like, no, but he wasn't Arab, he lived there, he grew up there, he spoke that, and he still did it. And I
yeah.
want people to feel empowered like that. And that's why being a role model and being someone that young kids can look up to is something that is so important to me. And I want and I am doing my best to be able to represent and be someone that can inspire them. So that's on like the being a role model, and what that position means. And when it comes to Arab artists who are doing the A-pop and like global Arabs with Arabic roots, um, I listen to so much music by so many people. It's like I've been visiting a lot of older music as well. I mean, when Amr Diab was in the late 90s and 2000s, that was A-pop at that time. And for me to understand what made that relative at that time happen in that way, and to take it and learn from it and be inspired by it to do it today, and to take it even further when we add the English, when we add the new production, when we add all of this. So I'm so inspired by many different artists from the Arab world. And also, like, I listen to Turkish music, I listen to K-pop music, I listen to Latin music, French music, and I see what their own fusion sounds like. How do they make their own cultures global? And I take notes from that, because to be able to come up with my I like a pop definition. I need to see what like how others did it who managed to succeed in doing what I want to achieve. So it's kind of like learning by observing from other people and adding my own touch to it. So it's kind of like yeah, learning by observing
That's
and
really
doing.
interesting.
Yeah.
Of course, this is just like the first chapter in your career because I'm sure there's a lot of things that you're gonna be preparing. And I want to ask you right now, for our audience, like, what Bahjat is working on right now? Any like upcoming album, like tell us, like, what is the upcoming project like?
Yeah.
Anything you want to reveal, like?
Yeah. I mean, I just arrived back to Sweden 2 days ago, and I've already been like in the studio for like 2 days ago. So like as soon as I arrived, actually right now we are doing the like I'm participating in a music camp, which is the first Bahjat camp that we've done, me and my manager. So we have like over 20 songwriters, and they're all writing with me to write songs for my upcoming releases, which has been such an fun experience so far. It's like, when you have the creative input from 20 people, it takes me to new places musically. And that's what I want to achieve. I never want to get comfortable as a songwriter, as an artist. I always want to push myself more. And so I'm working on a lot of music that I will hopefully release soon. And aside from that, I'm exploring different opportunities in the music industry. So I'm partnering actually with a company called Co-Write here in Sweden. And Co-Write is a company that's like, it you kind of, as an artist, you allow your fans to invest in your music. So when you put a project there, and the thing that was fresh with Co-Write is that the fans actually make the money back, and then they make like profit if they invest in the song. So I'm doing that with a song of mine called Hometown Smile. I'm re-releasing it with this company, like with Co-Write. And it's so I'm just like exploring new opportunities and new possibilities, and to be independent in the music industry, and still reach bigger audiences all the time. And I decided to do it with my song Hometown Smile, because Hometown Smile, I released it like 3 years ago, and it got uploaded as a nightcore version. And now if you search for it on YouTube, it has over 40 million views combined for the videos, which is like crazy. And I guess it just teaches you that people are always connecting with the message of the song. And if the song is genuine, then people are going to connect with it and they're going to share it. So yeah, so I'm writing a lot of music, and I'm looking for more opportunities as an entrepreneur in the music industry, and as an independent artist.
We wish you all the best with your upcoming music because we are really like expecting some kind of very amazing song, because you are always like sharing with us your emotion. It's more onto like you are writing very amazing songs. And I would like to wrap up this amazing interview. What is your message to the artists from the Arab world who are working on this kind of music and starting doing their career? Let's say like, what is the message you said to Bahjat when he's starting doing music? What is the learn or what is the lesson you learned during this year about music that if you know it back time, you will be able to accelerate your things. So I wanted to be more onto like a message for our audience. There is a plenty of artists and people want to do something in music and they want to kind of like having some inspiration.
Yeah. I mean, artistically, my number one advice would be to not be scared of experimenting. So just try it. Just if even if it sounds weird. I mean, the first time I wrote a Libyan song, I felt so weird because there aren't that many contemporary Libyan songs with like the way that we speak. So just go write the songs, experiment, get feedback from people. Don't be scared of feedback, because that's what's going to help you become a better artist. And in terms of the business side, I think that all artists in all different industries are going to need to become entrepreneurs to be able to sell their music and their projects, because it's become so crowded now. So, experiment musically, reach out to people, get feedback, and build a network and reach out and understand how the music industry works. Because the music industry it is a lot about the business part and the industry part as well. So being well educated can help artists, prevent them from going into bad deals, or it makes them more in control of their career. So I think that would be my advice to people who are interested in that.
So thank you so much, Bahjat, for sharing your story, and this is really amazing to have you with us. It's really kind of uh, very inspiring story, and your energy is really there because I always believe that a real artist is not just the artist who recording in the studio. Artists inspire and become role model, and I think you are really good role model for our artists in the region and the youth. So I wish you all the best with your music.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me and supporting Arab artists and helping share it globally. It is much appreciated, and I'm looking forward to talking to you in the near future again.
Thank you, Bahjat.
Thank you.